This video is a different style than I usually make them, and it's because I realized that I can't commentate when I have to focus on a game. As a result, I decided to add commentary after the fact. Hi there, my name is TheTrueNev, welcome to Furi and my fight against Bernard in the One More Fight DLC. To start things off, let's talk about what should have been. This video should have come up 2 to 3 weeks after the last Furi video made, and I was well on my way to it. In fact, I had recorded the very first part of this fight with the intention of completing it soon thereafter, but that didn't pan out, so instead, we got this. But in that time, in those 2 to 3 weeks, I instead started to learn Bernard's patterns. The original video I'd made, I had only gotten barely to scratch the second phase. And now let's talk about the actual difficulty of this fight. Bernard himself hits fast and rough, but he's not that difficult to beat. It's in fact more a matter of practice and trial and error, and that's exactly what this fight was. Bernard can be very intimidating starting off because he has 9 health bars, that's 9 different phases, and each phase is represented by one of the different bosses in the game. In a way, you have to know how to beat the other guys in order to beat Bernard. The tricky part here, at least for me, was the fact that I'd never beaten the game inferior mode, and Bernard is only available in inferior mode, so I really had to adapt. This was truly a battle of patience and wit, and a whole lot of willpower to not give up. Now, as you saw, the first phase is relatively easy, but the second phase, believe it or not, it took me a long time to figure out that one easy way to avoid almost all attacks and just get the parrying was to shoot him from afar with a charged beam. Because parrying those attacks that heal you can be a lifesaver, because the more life you have facing up to this guy, the more of a fighting chance you actually have to survive. Now, in order to conduct this battle, I had to first learn how to fight against him and then learn some advanced techniques, because if not, I would have taken forever trying to beat him. Now, slowly but surely, over the course of these last 3 weeks, I went up in ranks. I started to learn each and every phase pattern there was. The third phase in particular had me quite troubled for a while, getting to learn the timings of each attack, and I guess that's just the way it was for every phase. And until you learn exactly what each phase is and how to dodge, you really can't pass a fight. And the good thing is that once you do learn how to do it, it's just a matter of practicing until you get it right without getting damaged, and just to keep going farther. One of the really tough parts about this fight, in general, is that you have 2 phases for each phase. The long-range regular battle, and then the CQC battle. CQC battles are beasts on their own, but they're also technically very easy once you get the hang of them. For the 4th phase, I found that it was very easy, just like when I beat the game in vanilla mode, and that's what I'll call it, vanilla mode, seeing as it didn't really take me too long to learn the patterns, and they were very easy to adapt to actually. The tricky part in this fight came after many repetitions, in that I was trying to get it even faster to make sure the video came out nice and concise, because this video is just my entire first and last attempt at beating this guy in one single unedited version. For this next phase, we faced up to what was, I think, the song, and damn, this was one of the harder ones. Most of the times when I died facing up to Bernard, I would die here or in one of the later phases I'll get to in a bit. And because the song, and as such this fight against Bernard, was a little different from the previous phases, it took a bit of doing just to get to know how to dodge everything and how to strike fast. As you can see, I died here because, yeah, I'm only human, I'm not perfect. I wasn't able to get this without damage in a single go, but I knew exactly what I had to do, so it was just a matter of repeating calmly and doing things right. That being said, as you'll see later on, I started to panic at one point because I didn't think I would make it. But as I said earlier in the video, the biggest trick to beating this guy is simply to focus on the attacks once you know them, and if you can, like me, find ways to trigger the parries. The second phase had that in that you could shoot Bernard, and enough dodging attacks and all that would give you the parries eventually. And parries means that if you can recover enough life before the CQC part, then you'll definitely have a greater chance at beating him. For the sixth phase, I learned pretty late in the game, or rather pretty late in my tries, that I could do the same thing as in the second phase. Since some of the attacks here were kind of difficult to dodge, I learned that if you shoot him from afar with enough charged beams, he'll start parrying you, and at the same time you can pretty much avoid all the long-range laser attacks and whatnot. That I did there of deflecting the yellow bullets, and I also did in the third phase, I actually had to learn in this fight. The game doesn't teach you that, and I did not know you could do that until I practiced enough against Bernard. In this part of the fight, I found that it's very easy, but also very annoying, because you can't hurt him, all you have to do is dodge. Dodging is not difficult, but it's one of those segments where you really have to be patient in order to do things right. When I first fought against Bernard, this segment actually got me, especially the little purple bits, because I was not prepared for that. I mean, one rarely is when one doesn't know what they're facing up to, but... I mean, what I'm trying to say is that every new style after the last one you'd mastered really took its toll on you. But master I did exactly all the phases except the last two, because those were the ones that took me the longest to learn, and those were the ones that I had a lot of luck on just to beat him in the end. Every single perfect parry I get here is but a shadow of all the ones that I got during practice against this guy in the 3 weeks prior. I would get a lot more parries before, but toward the end I started experimenting a little more. I'm particularly fond of that 3 purple ball deflection I did there because I did not think I could do that so close to him. In the last of the 3 phases, that is to say the 7th phase, I found that this one was also very difficult to learn how to beat. Once I did, I knew exactly what to do, but it's worth noting that, yeah, I died more than once to this guy. And regarding this phase and the next one, I have to say one thing, and it's that Bernard, in a way, reminded me of Markov. Especially the 8th phase. The 8th phase was my Markov. The 8th phase was my wall. Not in that it was particularly difficult, but because every single time I tried and failed, I felt fury. I felt frustration in that I have to start all over again. The same thing that happens with Markov and Hollow Knight. Eventually though, I did learn how to beat the 7th phase as well as the 8th phase, as you'll see. And the 8th phase was particular in the CQC portion because you can't strike more than once. You have to do it calmly. And that was something that didn't register in me. Especially not when I was trying to win, when I was trying not to panic. And normally by this point in the fight, I was panicking. It was getting very tiring, very tough. It's a battle of persistence and one in which you must persevere in order to win. The thing that most got me about the CQC part in the 8th and penultimate phase was, more than anything, the timings. I had not gotten the timings down. I barely got them down by the time I beat him, but geez, I think I got more than anything lucky. And then finally we begin the last phase, which you might think is the toughest, but actually, considering this was only my 2nd try against him, I found that it was my favorite phase, because it was the culmination of every other phase in the fight. It was the culmination of 3 weeks of practice, 3 weeks of sweat, 3 weeks of frustration, in that if you knew how to dodge every single attack from the other phases, you could win this one. That being said, I cheesed it twice, as you'll soon see, because honestly I was kind of nervous about failing, and nervousness plus, visibly trying not to mess up while also thinking, crap, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna mess up, led me to actually dying twice. Not once, but twice. And by then I was starting to panic. By then I was really nervous that I wouldn't beat this fight. I mean, for the most part, as you can see, it went pretty smoothly. I was holding out quite nicely, but also messing up quite a bit. That's because I still hadn't gotten all the timing totally down. So there's the first death. But here I thought, well, alright, fine. I messed this up the first time, but I've still got 2 bars of life. I can still do this. I just gotta calm down, dodge everything, parry everything right. But even knowing what I had to do, even thinking it, it wasn't enough. I was still receiving pretty decent damage. But I have to reiterate when I say that this is my favorite one, just because I spent all that time practicing. I learned every single one of the phases attacks to dodge them, so just seeing a culmination of them here was really gratifying, even if I did fail twice. And now is when I died a third time, and this is when I started to panic. I had lost so many times against this guy, and I especially didn't want to repeat the 8th phase. I was more afraid of the 8th phase than this last one, just because of that timing in the CQC part. This is when I started to think, oh crap, I can no longer die. I have to do this. I have to win. Focus, bring your A game, start to dodge right. Even then, you'll see, I still received damage in the end. I barely passed this guy, but I gave it my all. I knew what I had to do. I knew how to dodge everything. I just had to do it. Of course, in the heat of the moment, in the panic of the mentality, you can't really think. All you have to do is act based on what you know. And what I knew is that I couldn't afford to mess up. What's funny is that even with the parries, it just wasn't enough. I was taking more damage than I was recovering. But I somehow held my ground long enough to reach what would be the final phase of the fight. Having said that, this fight was tough. I did want to upload this sooner, I did want to finish the fight sooner, but practice took time. And after beating Bernard, I realized, you know what, if I can beat this wall, I can beat any wall. And I think it's time to go back to Markov. So the next course of action was to train for Markov. Of course, I don't know when the next Hollow Knight video will come up, but it should be soon. Having said all that, and having shown you this, I leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching it. If you liked it, then please, thumbs up with that like button down below, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell button for some sweet notifications. But as always, I'm the only me, so you be the only you. See you next time.